Hello and welcome to another weekly update. Hope you've had a good week. There's been plenty of things happened this week to draw your attention to, so let's jump into it. So the first was some guidance change or guidance update, I suppose, to people rolling out Teams. So not necessarily developer focused, but it's interesting and useful to know this stuff even as a developer, because at the moment, Teams is being rolled out. Organisations are rolling out Teams, so people are asking questions about things like bandwidth and network capabilities and stuff like that. So it's useful to be able to have these answers to go to. And the update concerns the amount of bandwidth, network bandwidth, that Teams typically requires. And it turns out that the bandwidth requirements for Teams actually improves on that for Skype for Business, so it requires less bandwidth. And the current guidance is that for a typical call or a meeting where you've got audio, video and desktop sharing happening, Teams requires 1.2 megabits per second. So that's the minimum requirement. So 1.2 is your minimum. If there is more bandwidth, and this is kind of good information to have, if there is more bandwidth available, Teams will scale up to use it. In fact, even if there's less than that bandwidth, like Teams will scale down. But what they're saying is 1.2 is you kind of need that for a good experience. That's kind of a headline figure though. So there's loads behind that. There's loads of other metrics and calculations that a good network admin should be aware of. So if you do get questions about this, either you're being asked questions by your network admin team, or maybe it's a really small organisation, you're the Teams champion and you're the person who has to figure this stuff out. There's a Teams bandwidth calculator. So there's a link to that in the blog post. Actually, it's aka.ms/bwcalc. So nice and easy to remember for that one. That's got loads of information. It's a good calculator you can just kind of plug all your numbers into and get some get bandwidth recommendations out of, so that's really good. The other thing that happened is around about the Office 365 roadmap. So the roadmap, the Office 365 roadmap, it's been around a while, and it's been a really useful tool for us in figuring out what's coming down the line for these different products in Office 365, what the product teams are working on, what we can expect to see rolling out, and some detail. And that's been really helpful in planning. It's been really helpful in advising customers what's happening, and all the rest of it. And that's not going away. The Office 365 roadmap isn't going anywhere, but it is becoming part of the Microsoft 365 roadmap. And what that means is it's the same level of information in terms of you can see the features, you can see the status of them, but now you can also see things for Windows 10, all of Office, and also the enterprise mobility and security product set as well. So it all now lives in one single place, the Office 365 roadmap. And that's very useful. It's a single pane of glass. It's one holistic view across all of the Microsoft stack for admins. They can see what's coming. They can see what's been worked on. They can see what's rolling out. You can also filter by the different types of cloud. So if you're particularly, let's say you're an educational user, or maybe you're on a government cloud, or you're in region, you can see a different roadmap for your particular cloud. And that's really useful if you're an admin operating in one of those regions. Other useful thing, the Office 365 roadmap recently added a download to CSV option. That's still there, so that's super. There's also now an RSS option, which is great. It means you can subscribe to updates, so you can see what's changed daily or weekly. Super useful. So that RSS feed is there on the site as well. So definitely go and have a look at it, make yourself familiar with it, because that's going to be the place where all the stuff comes from. That's going to be where you go to get all the updates and all the info about what's happening. So super useful. Okay, looking at kind of across the spectrum of other news in this area affecting developers and development, and this whole world of Teams development and Skype for Business development. I've talked before about how Microsoft has changed and become more open source friendly, and how a lot of the stuff Microsoft do now is working in the open. A lot of the stuff goes straight to GitHub, and in fact a lot of their source code has been open sourced. And I've been saying that for a while, that Microsoft has really changed as a company, and you can't think about Microsoft in the old way that people still beat Microsoft up. They remember that kind of organisation from the 90s, and they think it's the same. And it's really not. It's a completely different company. If you wanted some concrete business evidence of that this week, Microsoft have just open sourced their entire, well, not their entire, but like a massive portion of their patent library. So they've open sourced and made available 60,000 patents that they own. What they've done is they've joined the Open Innovation Network, which is an open source patent group, and they've made those 60,000 patents available to all members in the Open Invention Network. Why is this important? Well, the OIN, that network, that's a kind of licensing platform for Linux. So what it means is all those members have access, and it means they can use patents without worry about legal comeback or any kind of patent infringement. But that's huge. It's protection for Unix and open source and all those other open source projects that rely on it. It protects them from lawsuits. It's a really big move from Microsoft. It's much more than just kind of nice words and even open source. Open sourcing your patents, that's a really big step. It's huge. There are some things obviously that Microsoft do still retain the patents for. It's not they've completely thrown everything away, but that makes sense. But like, this is huge. This is Microsoft going open source on a majority of things, and not just code, not just new code, not just ideas, on patents as well. So that's business moving to open source. So that's a huge plus for the whole developer community. It's really good. All right. Finally, I think so this is interesting. So this is on your reading list. So this is something you can read this week, because I'm going to be reading this week. It went onto LinkedIn, and it's written by Chris Capocella, the Chief Marketing Officer at Microsoft. Title is How to Refresh Your Career Again and Again and Again. Now, he has previously published a piece called Refreshing Your Career Again and Again. This is an update post, so he's talked to a lot of people about it. So he's adding to his last year story with some new ideas. He's talking about his program and his career development since he started working in 1972, how he ended up as the Chief Marketing Officer of Microsoft. So anytime anybody in these kind of positions posts an update about their career, it's guaranteed worth a read anyway. And I've heard lots of good things about this blog post already. I'm excited to read it. It's on my reading list for this week coming, so I would encourage you to put it on your reading list as well. All right, that's everything for this week. Have a great weekend, and have a great week next week, and I'll talk to you again next time.